Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 653 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our ninth book just came out. It's called From Letters to Leaders, The Legacy of Service. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there's nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, mentors are really the best way for college students to get access to the resources and expertise they need in order to move forward. The alumni pool, check your university alumni pool, even family and friends that have been successful in their own careers. Don't go at this life alone. Be sure to find somebody to help guide you so you don't repeat some of the same mistakes that they made earlier in life. So we're going to talk a little bit more about mentorship today with our next guest. Brian Dixon, most folks will actually call him just Dixon, is a Colorado-based adventurer, author, and speaker, and a recovering midlife mad zombie. For 20 years, he lived misaligned, playing the superhero for everyone but himself. In 2014, a life-threatening mountain bike crash ended years of quiet drift. Alignment took longer until he made a decision most men his age would never consider. At 50, he chased down a dream from his youth. He found a mentor, committed to years of training, and flew a paraglider solo off Colorado's Lookout Mountain. It might seem and sound like a midlife cliché, but it wasn't. It was clarifying. That flight reset his true north. Everything he teaches fits into a simple mantra: wake up, realign, move forward. Today, he helps men break free from misalignment so they can wake up, realign, and move forward. Welcome to the show, Dixon.
Hey, how we doing over there?
We are doing really well, coming to you live from Buffalo, New York. I'm hitting the road here as I'm traveling all over the country. It's a little bit cold outside, but I know in Colorado you're used to the snow and cold weather. So I think you're right at home here in Buffalo.
Yeah, been a little warm. It's been a little warm this year for snowboarding. We've had kind of a mild winter, but I got a buddy in Rochester over there, so I've been up your way.
Nice. Yeah, it's been a little light on snow out there in Colorado. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get that corrected real quick. I love how you kind of introduce yourself by talking about a recovering midlife man zombie. What does that actually mean? And how does a driven, high functioning guy like yourself end up asleep at the wheel?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
I believe there's a lot of guys that fall into this trap. I just happen to be one that kind of took a nap for 20 long years. I made some critical, I won't call them weak, but I will call them misaligned decisions when I was college age, right after school. I went to the University of Colorado out here in Boulder to run track for them. I was a Division I track guy. And after I had all this fire in my belly and ended up going down rabbit holes after college, which we can unpack. But what it did was kind of have me strap in for a life of misalignment when I knew from the beginning what I was getting myself into. And wrong partner, wrong career, wrong life, man. And so when I say man zombie, I just mean asleep at the wheel, going through the motions, career, raising kids, all that stuff. But there's no vibrancy in that when you're misaligned.
Wow, that's just incredible. The other thing that I want to talk about too is this pulmonary embolism that you had after the mountain bike crash. Was that kind of a wake up call for you, or was that just the beginning in your mind?
Yeah. It was both actually. I had, a big crash from that misalignment happened in 2008 with the financial crash. I was in mortgage and real estate, also part of kind of my misalignment career choices, there are many. But after that, I started kind of looking at where I was trying to go with my life, and then had a mountain bike crash that didn't really, I mean, I've always been an active guy, but yeah, it was something where I ended up ripping open a side of my leg and having a big contusion. And then I went to the ER and they're like, ah, you're fine. And then fast forward, like, you know, and just like with all my outdoor activities, I'm like, yeah, that's fine, man. Bruised, battered, broken bone, whatever. I'm good. 3 months later, it was in May of 2014. And so the accident was in March. I started having difficulty breathing, went to my doctor on the forced by my girlfriend at the time to go to the doctor and ended up passing out, going to the ER. And they did an MRI and they're like, you don't have a small, medium, or large, you have a massive pulmonary embolism. And what had happened was a blood clot from months earlier had made its way into my pelvis. And then with my activity level, I took a long trip out to New York. Actually, went to see Billy Joel out the garden, lots of planes, trains, and automobiles. Anyway, coming back to Colorado, as I started moving again for the spring bike season, that blood clot got really big in my pelvis and moved up into my lungs and could have easily gone into one side of the heart attack, or broken off to stroke. But that right there was the wake up call to go, what am I doing with my life? Number one. And it's also the piece that I teach other men now is you don't have to have that kind of experience to wake up from a life of sleep. If you've been man-zombieing your way around. But that's just how I did it. And that's what forced me to start looking at getting my alignment and my values aligned with my life, which led me into my paragliding story. So,
Man, oh man. So let's talk about that paraglider story because now you're age 52 and you launch a paraglider solo off of Lookout Mountain. I'm wondering, why did you decide that this was going to be it for you?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, why not just buy a Harley, buy a motorcycle, and ride the country like most people do?
Oh, I love this question. I love this question. First of all, the stereotype for men in crisis, if we're going to call it a midlife crisis, the stereotype is men change their haircut, run off with their secretary, buy a Harley. It's basically a reactive decision, and it's not. It really doesn't have any guide to it. There's no guardrails. Men just kind of are like, I hate this and I want to feel young again, or something like that. I'm all about men having a guided midlife crisis. And so my particular story wasn't something that was random, like, hey, man, I'm going to go jump off this mountain. Before I got married to a partner that wasn't aligned with myself, and before I went against what I studied in college, which was journalism, I wanted to be an adventure writer. I was training to fly off Lookout Mountain in Colorado because my post-college apartment, right after college, I moved right to the base of Lookout Mountain. It just happened to be the epicenter in 1992, I'm old, of Colorado paragliding. And so I just happened to be there for the beauty of Golden, Colorado, mountain biking, snowboarding, but I watch these guys every day land outside my window and I'm like, man, that's amazing. And then I really was like, I want to do that. And then it was like, I'm going to do that. So I started training and training for it, a year of training. And by that time, my misalignment decisions with my partner in career had caught up to me. And so the way my book starts is my wife at the time had walked out to me after a year of training, pregnant, by the way. And she's like, I think it's time you let this go. And the book starts that way because that was kind of the last part of me that I hadn't compromised away yet as a man. And it was the only place I felt like me, like everything else I'd kind of given up, right? And, I go to great lengths in the book to say I'm not against settling down or having kids. I have 3 boys and all these things, but that domestic piece kind of was all about the paragliding piece. So anyway, that whole dream went to sleep with me for 25 years. So fast forward to 2019, I happened to take a graphics class. I was a realtor. I've been a realtor for 20 years now. But this graphics class was taught by a guy who ended up becoming my Yoda. And inside of this graphics class for real estate, he had all these paragliding pictures. So I'm like, man, I used to do that a long time ago. I was really hot to trot to jump off this, to launch, not jump, we don't say jump, launch this mountain. And he's like, I could help you do that again. And that was like, I had to think about that for about a year and a half, but we kept in touch. And finally, I'm like, you know what? That's me, man. That's my true north. I remember that that's where I wanted my life to go, you know, adrenaline, adventure, and writing about it back in the day. And that's what happened. So I did 2 years of work, and the guy was so generous. His name is Tim. And I ended up writing a whole story about it. And there's also an origin story on YouTube called Wings of My Youth. So there's a written asset, but there's also a video version. If you go on Live Where You Play TV, which is my YouTube channel, you'll see the day that I actually did it after 2 years. And I flew over that same apartment from 1997, man. I looked down on it. And when I'm in the air, I'm like, that's my old apartment. I'm actually Shawshank Redemption here, man. I'm coming back around to me. And once I landed, well, man, then I started looking at other parts of my life I should get in alignment. My health, my relationship. I met the woman of my dreams and we got married this past September. And now I'm all back to like, let's throw down the gauntlet in life. So in a way, I'm kind of like one of your fraternity brothers, man. I feel like I just am getting out of school. It just so happens I'm 55 and I'm ready to go again with a lot of the same dreams. And ironically.
Wow, what an interesting story. And the other thing too is you actually say that most men don't fall asleep at age 45. You believe that they fall asleep at 22. So what are some of those subtle decisions that college men might be making senior year that will quietly shape midlife regret later on?
Yeah, man. It's almost like you got to be careful because you don't really realize it coming out of school. I'll tell you a couple things. I mean, in my case, I studied journalism. I wanted to write for Outside Magazine. I was offered, life gave me all the opportunities of what I wanted. I could have picked a different person to be with, and I could have just gone into journalism. But I was offered a job to work for a newspaper in Cripple Creek, Colorado, and I said no. I said no because it paid just not a lot of money, okay? And I don't want to call it a regret, but I want to tell college age kids that it's not all about the money. When you are coming out of school, you are at this point in your life where you don't have, hopefully, you don't have a lot of student debt, but you don't have the mortgage, the car payment, the 2 kids. If you're going to do anything in your life where you can afford to work under a mentor for free for a year or take on an internship or get crappy pay for 2 years, well, damn it, go do it. Okay. Because I wish I would have gone through all that because I would have had the story to tell, say, hey, I worked for this crappy newspaper and then I did this and then I did this and then boom, now I work for Outside Magazine and I love my life. That is an alternative universe that could have happened to me if I wouldn't have said, oh, this doesn't pay enough. Well, I'm just big on that. And I'm sure that's kind of the point I would want to, make sure your audience kind of understands, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Right out of college, I started working for an entrepreneur who was building his own company, and that company went from startup to $25 million in annual sales. And we were selling network infrastructure. We were selling Cisco routers, switches, and firewalls, a lot of refurbished
Right.
network infrastructure. But it was a great experience because really there's no textbook that teaches you how to be an entrepreneur and how to be successful at it. But for me, working alongside him, I actually watched him build this company from startup to $25 million in annual sales. And I understood the processes. What is a CRM package? Well, nobody talks about what a CRM package is, in college. And
Right.
so I'm seeing all of these things for my mind. I'm starting to build out my own companies, even though during the day I'm working for this guy. And so at night
Sure.
I'm thinking, okay, how do I make this mine? And so I think that's really good advice. It's really not how much money you're making. It's about the experience that you're having and what you can build with all of that knowledge. And I think just having the right mentor, boy, oh boy, that can turbo boost your career in no time.
Right,
Um,
but also staying true to your true north of, hey man, am I in the right career that I want to be in? Well, actually, no, my uncle works for the garbage company, so I'm just going to be a manager at the garbage company when you really want to be a musician. Well, that's
right.
misalignment right off the bat. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying don't necessarily go work for the garbage company. I mean, if you have to do what you have to do, but you need to reserve a piece of yourself where you're practicing your music and your dreams stay with you instead of drift. Men drift inside of this
Mhm.
whole thing of making the money and getting the house and getting married and having the kids. And that drift is what I'm here to protect from, and I might have lost you there. You're a little shaky on the screen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you
Okay.
perfectly. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Guys do tend to drift. And so is that what misalignment actually looks like in your 20s? Is that when you are doing things that don't really align with your North Star?
In my case, it definitely was, man. I
Yeah.
instead of going to work for that newspaper and writing, which is what I was so excited about, you know what I did?
Mm.
Professional blackjack dealer.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's misalignment. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, I became a wedding DJ.
Yeah.
And then mortgages and real estate. None of that stuff has anything to do with what I'm once again coming back around to. I'm writing a
Mhm.
book finally. I always said when I got out of college, that's what I wanted to do, man. So, even if you do go have to pay some bills, I would have a big alarm bells going off where if you're not working on your own side hustle and dream, that's your true north, then you will make the mistake of what happened to me, which is falling asleep and thinking that I just have to get these kids to soccer practice and I have to make 120 grand or my life's over or whatever the heck it is. A lot of that stuff doesn't have anything to do with the real you. So
Right.
I don't know. There's
Yeah.
something in there, right?
Absolutely, there is. I mean, people can work on your side hustle. I know I did when I was starting out my career. I just worked on my side hustle at night and on the weekends until it was making more money and more successful than my day job was. And then I knew that it was time to make that jump, right? Like, this
That's
is
the
my
hot
true north.
ticket right there.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the true north. That's really what I want to be doing. But you have to scale this thing. You do have to pay the bills. I mean, there is that reality too.
Yeah.
Somehow you got to put food on the table and you got to pay your rent. But also, you can be built fraternity president who's listening right now, or maybe a chapter leader who's listening right now. How can you lead other people on your team without losing yourself?
Right. Right. Well, first of all, I'd say if your passion, if you're finding as a young person that your passion is leadership, then you're already doing the right thing. But if you're so busy and it's kind of more of a, you know, it's a job, it's something you do, and it calls to you in some ways, but they're just like with every job, there's parts you don't like. I would say that those people really need to once again hold off room for themselves while they're not give what I call it the over providing the superhero where you providership is great and running and being a leader is great, but if you over lead to your own detriment, it's the Greeks, man, the moderation and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't go ape shit over that stuff if you also have this other little bird, this dream of, you know, starting a garden entrepreneurship or traveling to Nepal or something like you got to keep that alive no matter what you're doing. And that includes paying the bills. So I would go back to everybody's going to have to pay the bills out of school. My point is you don't need to make a lot right now, but as soon as you take on the $3,000 mortgage and the $600 truck payment, guess what? Your options get real limited real quick. And that's an easy way to fall asleep because now you're like, I have to make this money. And the first thing that goes out the door is, well, I guess I'm not going to practice guitar this Saturday,
Mhm, mhm.
right?
Yeah, you make some great points. I remember graduating from college and saying to myself, well, I've graduated college, so I've earned it. So I'm going to go out and buy a brand new Mustang and I'm going to park that out in the driveway because I've earned that.
Oh
But
yeah.
meanwhile, I was fully committed now because now I had to pay those bills when I probably just could have bought a used car that would have been totally fine.
Totally
Um,
fine.
totally fine, right? Like, why did I like mortgage like my future right away? Like I could have just had anything, any used
Dude,
car.
that's a
Uh,
whole podcast right there. You're talking to the guy who the precursor to the Tacoma was the T100. No, the Tundra. I had Toyota trucks, those little white ones, and they all jacked up back in the day, and they were fairly cheap. But I went and leased. I remember I was like 23, man. I went and leased a lease, a brand new black T100 Toyota for $420 a month. Now in 1993, that's $1 million. It was more
wow.
than my rent, probably.
Ugh.
I mean, what am I going to do now? I'm going to have to deal some blackjack. That's what I'm going to have to do.
I see. That decision led to another decision, and now you lost your true north completely.
Mhm.
So talking about this true north, I think a lot of college students today are really struggling to figure out what is their purpose in
Right.
life. So what does that mean for a 21-year-old? Because they have no idea yet what their purpose is in life.
Yeah, my wife's daughter is just graduating college out here. She was swearing up and down she wanted to go to law school. She came to her last week and she's like, I don't want to go to law school. She ends up blaming it on me because we had a discussion one night a few weeks ago. And I'm like, don't blame it on me. But I would say she really examined her true voice inside. And she's like, do I really want to go to law school or am I trying to like show my parents, her mom, my wife's pretty successful. So she always kind of lived in the shadow of her, right? But she was going to go to law school just so she could be like, hey, I'm doing this thing. But it wasn't her, you know? So your gut, even though you're 21 and you don't know anything or whatever, you know what that internal guiding voice says. And, you know, if you go work for a job, whatever, doing, at one point, at, I wanted to get out of blackjack, and my wife at the time was like, you need a real job, real hours. I got a job at a generator company, like counting parts. Like I was the parts guy on the computer. It's just like the total opposite of who I am, right? But I just felt the dread of that. I'm like, my internal voice is like, no, no way, man. At least you know what you know, even if you're 21. So I would say take some steps to really there's a lot of media out there where you can read some books and educate yourself, but you know what you like and you know what calls to you, and you also know you need to pay the bills. So let's figure out how paying the bills and true north can work together instead of push each other apart, you know?
Yeah, great points. Now, you went to UC Boulder, and I think UC Boulder is one of those campuses that certainly comes with a little bit of risk. There's no question about it. And the fraternity culture that exists, whether it be UC Boulder or any other campus, sometimes glorifies that risk with men. So, how do you distinguish between what I would call destructive risk and growth producing risk?
Yeah, I love that, and I assume you're probably talking about some of that fraternity culture in the beginning where you're joining, and there's some adventurous there of some crazy stunts. Maybe is that what you're referencing?
Yes, crazy stunts.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's funny. I wasn't actually in a fraternity. I was drowning in. I was there for track, and I was an ROTC guy, and I was an RA, and I was
Mhm.
taking 18 credit hours. My day was like I thought about joining, but I just didn't have the bandwidth. But yeah, I mean, for those guys that that are doing some of the crazy stuff, I'm a big guy of feeling my chest, my heart beat in my chest. So when I was in college, I was bungee jumping off of hot air balloons, and I went free climbing in Boulder Canyon with zero experience, almost died. This is the dumbest stuff. Skydiving. It's kind of like how I got into paragliding and all these things. But I will
Mhm.
tell you that, managed risk can do a lot for you versus vegging out on a screen in a corporate cubicle somewhere and going home and catching the game or watching Netflix. I mean, I'm trying to move into kind of a retreat scenario where I remind guys to go outside and play, man. And I like helmet sports. I think snowboarding and mountain biking and paragliding, all these things put me in what I call a flow state.
Mhm.
And I define that as anything that makes you forget you got a cell phone. So I would tell any of the guys coming out of school to dedicate some time every day to get in flow. And how often can you get back in flow? For me, it's a battery recharge. And it does come with risk because for me, not only do I combine outdoors with my favorite music on a mountain bike or a snowboard, I'm making decisions where I'm picking a line and it just keeps me active and it makes me feel like, man, I don't even know what time it is. It's just amazing. I mean, that's how you feel when you're flying a paraglider. And I would say there's a lot of benefit for guys to think in those ways instead of just this, you
Mhm.
know, all day long.
Totally. And you also talked about the moment that men give up, but they never talk about. Is that when you're basically misaligned and you're doing something that is completely off of your North Star? When do men give up?
Yeah. In the book, I haven't we have it's coming out in the fall, but I haven't just defined what I struggle with the actual name of it, like the moment or
Right.
the tipping point, if you remember Malcolm Gladwell.
Yes, tipping.
But there is a time where, at least for me too, it was like had my true north, had my true north, had my true north, got to this point where I silently and didn't even probably know it. So it's tough to say when it happens, but
Mhm.
I basically gave up and crossed the barrier into self martyrdom, into over sacrificing. And when I did that, my true north, I drifted away and away from my true north. And so what I talk about in the book is also there's the reverse of that, coming back to the tipping point. In my case, it was pulmonary embolism and then launching Lookout, and now I'm going back this way to me. And so if you ask for a specific moment, a lot of guys are so asleep they might not even know they're in this state. And I have something in the book called a man zombie test. Like, when's the last time you did something for you? Or how about the next time someone asks you to do something that your gut says, that's just not me? How about you say no? And I just want to do it as an experiment. Maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your partner. I don't want to go to the mall today, honey. I want to go I want to go for a hike in nature because I haven't been outside in 6 weeks. I've been working so hard. There's a lot of that where I mean, in my case, it was people pleasing, but stand up for reserve those times for yourself, right? So there's no real moment that I can just say other than uh, we could test you to see if you're awake or not. But a lot of guys are just in this state where uh, they don't even realize it that they've gone past that, right? They've kind of I turned into someone totally like, oh, this is how it is. This is as good as it gets. And my job is to drive kids to football practice. That's what I do. I'm a limousine driver. That's what Dixon is, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
unbelievable.
Getting ahead of my college years for your group, but those days may be coming for them, you know?
Yeah. You talk about being in the flow or being awake. What give us some examples of some daily habits that can keep a man awake instead of drifting? Is it just being outside? Is that a daily habit? Is getting outside every day?
It doesn't have to be a getting outside. That's what I recommend for a lot of guys, maybe to reset.
Mhm.
But I live within a couple miles of all these great trails, and doesn't it could be going to the gym, it could be going to the studio and practicing your guitar, It could be spending time with your best buddy. There's so many of us when we fall asleep, we stay in our house with our partner and we don't have any man friends, man. So what happened to the locker room big dreams we used to have where we shoot the shit with our buddies and go out and have a beer? I mean, when you fall asleep, you also fall asleep to your fellowship with other men. And for us guys, I think it's so important to go back to that fire we used to have where we're like, man, we're going to take over the world. And you feel that way when you graduate, right? I
Sure.
mean, you're like, I remember those graduation parties. Oh, what are we going to do? You got this internship. Oh, it's going to be so cool. Dude, the world is coming. And then, yeah, the world comes sometimes. And you, you, you gotta guard yourself too from that in some ways. But my job is to get guys back into that way of thinking, like almost like what I said, like I just feel like I'm just getting out of college right now. You
Yeah.
know,
Very
I want to
nice.
come down and hang out with your fraternity buddies right now so I can feel like, oh yeah, I want to be around people that have this fire again, not the Homer Simpsons
Yeah.
sitting in their recliners going, oh man, new Netflix series. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I
Right?
think that is the beauty of fraternity. I mean, we're really saying the same thing. The beauty of fraternity is that you can come back to it 20 years later, 25 years later, 30 years later. And I just went to lunch with one of my fraternity brothers here in Buffalo just today, and we came up with this phenomenal business idea that we're going to execute. And none of it would have happened had we not met in college, 30 years ago.
So
Um,
powerful.
and it was so powerful. I mean, we just picked up right where we left off, like didn't even skip a beat, and we just started going into like business ideas and taking over the world. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Now, that is exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't do fraternity, but I just took a 2,600 mile road trip to Revelstoke, Canada, and I have an off-grid RV little business. But I have 12 friends from back in Maryland, which is where I went to high school, and one of them lives out here now. He and I took off and went to British Columbia. I mean, 3 days straight of driving to get up there. And you wouldn't have thought we were more than 18 years old again, man, because
Yeah,
you pick up those relationships where you pick off where you left off, even if it
yeah,
was 7 years, you haven't talked to them.
yeah.
Those are the guys you need to go hang out with and feel what that's like again, that brotherhood, right?
Yep, that's what it's all about. So fraternity definitely gives it to you, but yeah, you can have it, with just about anybody. But those connections really are critical. Now, I do love good food. I'm always thinking about where am I going for my next meal. So the next time I'm in Loveland, Colorado, where should I be going for a great meal?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're about an hour north of Denver.
Yeah.
There's a place in downtown Loveland which is pretty cool. It's called the Chop House, the
Uh-huh.
Loveland Chop House, and it's its own unique kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But traditional guy food, man. You get a great steak, some surf and turf. They got some desserts in there, and it's all this cool, like old school kind of 1950s kind of vibe, like almost like a Frank Sinatra lounge.
Nice.
So, and it's decorated that way. So I would say check out the Chop House.
All right, I'm gonna have to check out the Chop House. I'm actually going to be in Colorado, so we might be meeting up soon. I'm
Well,
going to be
let's do
speaking
it.
Colorado School of Mines in the beginning of April.
Absolutely.
And then the next day, I'll be speaking at the University of Denver. So 2 days in a row, back to back, Colorado School of Mines and University of Denver. Look out.
Look out.
Look
And
out.
now, hey, man, when you're at the School of Mines, guess what sits at the base of the School of Mines, sits right at the base of Lookout Mountain. You're going to look up and see where I launched my paraglider there. That's
I'm going to go
golden.
check it out. I'm going to go check out that spot. That's like the first thing I'm going to go look at.
It's Buffalo Bill's grave is really the top of that mountain for you can drive up it, you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Uh,
going to go drive up and check it out. That's awesome. All right. So listen, if our college student listeners, if they want to book you to speak on their college campus about finding their true north and making sure that they don't fall asleep at the wheel in their 20s, let's say they want to connect with you, bring you to campus, where should they go to connect?
yeah, absolutely. We're about to launch a new way to do all this, and it should be live in the next week or two. So whenever this podcast comes out, but it's going to be simply my ecosystem, which is gowithdixon.com. So Dixon, gowithdixon.com, real easy to remember. And there's a whole speaker page on there, and especially interested in speaking to colleges. I think the inspirational part of this, kind of taking advantage of these guys that have wide eyes for life. I mean, I want to be around that, and I like to mix it up with colleges, and especially looking forward to speaking about that at graduations or just fraternities. However they want to get a hold of us, there is a way to do that on the speaking page of Go with Dixon. Yeah.
That's it. Gowithdixon.com, Dixon. Go and check
Right.
out the website and make sure you bring Dixon to your college campus. What can I say, Dixon? Thank you so much for sharing all this. I think this is absolutely phenomenal. So we appreciate the time.
Yeah, that was awesome, man. I appreciate it, and definitely look for you out on the road. I'd like to come maybe see you over at School of Mines. I'll come say hi.
That sounds good. That's going to be April 6th. So you can mark your calendar and I'll see you there and you can show me the lookout point. That should
Okay,
be
great.
really fun.
Hey,
All
man,
right. So,
we'll have a beer and have a little fellowship. I like
we
this.
will. We will have a beer and we will have a little bit of fellowship. No
All right.
doubt about it. All right. To our students, if you guys learned something from Dixon today, what I want you to do is I want you to share this episode with your entire chapter. So drop it in a group chat, share it on social media. You never know who needs to hear Dixon's message today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.